Hi everybody, my name is Jeffrey Reynolds and this is my persuasive speech. It's about why I feel that people who don't vaccinate their children should face criminal charges and or civil charges, but probably I feel like they should face criminal charges. This topic is relevant. If anybody's been watching the news lately, you might have seen that there's been measles outbreaks. Now, measles have been extinct domestically for 15 years now, since 2000. There hasn't been any case of measles that hasn't come from outside the country. But now, the Huffington Post reports that in the last 2 months alone, there's been 121 cases of measles across 17 states, and they can trace the starting point back to Disney World, is where the outbreak actually began and spread. The problem in American borders comes from a group of people called the anti-vax movement or anti-vaccination movement. They believe there's a direct link between the MMR, that's measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, and autism. And many of these people, they have autistic children, and they're angry and they're upset and scared, and they feel like this was caused by having their child vaccinated. And we'll go on to talk about that later. I was also reading a book. This is outside the United States now. People are anti-vaccination for lots of different reasons. There's all these horror stories in the Vietnam War about children who were vaccinated by the soldiers in the Peace Corps over there, and then the Viet Cong would chop their arms off. They thought it was a plot to sicken the children, and this is actually still going on. I just read a book by Christopher Hitchens. It's called God Is Not Great, and he describes he was in Nigeria in 2001. He was also in Mumbai, and they were trying to eradicate polio, and they were doing a great job. They had it almost pinned down. There's no injection required for that. It's just 2 drops under the tongue, but you have to get a booster. The problem is the local warlords and mullahs and religious figures there, they said it was a plot from the West to sterilize the children so they wouldn't be able to have kids. They said it was an attack on the Muslim world. That's awful. What they're trying to do is prevent these horrifying diseases from spreading. And now, since 2005, polio has been on the rise from Yemen to Mecca, all over the place, all because of religious strife. But in America, it's more the anti-vaxxers and the agenda about how the vaccines cause autism. And this is true. Over the last 20 years, autism has been on a steady incline. If you can see my Prezi, it shows that since 1994, there's been huge increases in the rates of autism. This, though, correlation does not equal causation. Anything that's been on a sharp incline over the last 20 years could also be said to cause that. And if you take a look at my next slide, it's the sale of organic food in the United States, and you'll notice that it follows the same exact incline as the autism rates. They say that numbers don't lie. The thing is that people lie, and sometimes they spin them the way they want them spun to frighten people or cajole people, whatever it is. They make them do what they want the numbers to do. And no one's out there saying that organic food is causing autism. The problem is that there isn't a rise in autism, there's a rise in the diagnosis of it. Ever since 1994, when this chart starts, we changed the way we diagnosed it. You used to have a very, very low IQ, and you had to have been extremely withdrawn and almost nonverbal in order to be diagnosed as autistic. Ever since 1994, they changed it to autism spectrum disorder, which lots of kids fall under. So what happened is they changed the definition to include more children, and they act surprised when more children actually had the disorder. But like I said, correlation doesn't equal causation. These numbers don't really have anything to do with each other, but angry people and people with sick children, they will turn to anything to try to point the finger, rightly so or wrongly so. It's very frustrating, and this is the thing they've chosen to point their finger at. The only problem is this was the brainchild of one person. His name was Andrew Wakefield, and he proposed this connection in The Lancet, which is a prestigious medical journal in the United Kingdom. He proposed this in 1998. He said he did this study and he had all these numbers to back him up. The problem is that Andrew Wakefield lied and he falsified all this data. And the Lancet then retracted the article. They've run 2 studies since then in 2002 and 1999. Both of them showed no link between the vaccines and autism. But the reason why Andrew Wakefield did this was because he actually took out a patent on his own version of the MMR. And what he wanted to do is discredit the existing vaccine so that he could have the patent on this one. And then he would make a fortune off it. And it's terrible. He was trying to make money off bereaved parents. It's a horrible thing to do. Now, not vaccinating your kids might be a personal choice. The only problem is that it affects everybody. Disease runs by what's called herd immunity, and if it gets one toehold in a person, child, whatever, it could mutate. And that's why you hear about, super germs and things like that, MRSA. If it mutates, it could start affecting people that do have the immunization. So you're not just making a choice for your child, you're making a choice for the whole world. And it's a really, really bad choice, especially if you're just angry about one particular facet. If you think that it causes autism. So to spite everyone else or to spite your terrible luck or whatever it is, you're going to not vaccinate your kids. It's just a bad idea. But even if it did cause autism in 1 in 110 children, like it's alleged to have done, it would probably still be better than the diphtheria outbreaks of the 20s or polio in the late 40s and 50s before the vaccine. In conclusion, in a world where you can go to prison for possessing ancient medicinal remedies, let's call it, a controlled substance, narcotics basically, you can go to prison for life. Albert Hofmann synthesized LSD to help depressed people, and you can go to jail for life for possessing enough of it. And they just resumed medical trials on it after however many years of banning medical trials on it. And the opium has been used since time immemorial to cure pain. You possess enough of that, you're going to go to jail. You can get a ticket for not wearing a seatbelt. This is the government saying you have to do this thing for your own safety. Why aren't we doing something about communicable disease, though, and saying, no, you have to vaccinate your children? So I think there should be a penalty, something along the lines of endangering the welfare of a child or something like that. Perhaps something more extreme, but it's something Americans really need to think about. So thank you all very much.